Welcome to the FanMouth Fantasy Roundtable. I'm Erin here with Dave and Jeff, and we're going to tell you about our running back picks for Week 10. Jeff, who was your running back pick this week?
I went all out on running backs. I got the pass catchers, the guys who are all in the top 6 or so in points. I've got Matt Forte, Reggie Bush, and Danny Woodhead, and I feel like it's can't miss at running back. I've obviously took some risks at other positions, but at this position, you can't really critique what I have here and go, oh, well, I don't like that pick, can you?
Well, actually, no, I agree with you. I think the one thing that I've learned from your analysis of running backs is you've got to have guys who catch the ball. I mean, Danny Woodhead, when you watch Danny Woodhead on TV, you say, oh man, this guy can't be a good fantasy player. When you look at him in the paper or on the computer, you see his stats. Those 6, 7 catches every game, they add up. Bush is the same kind of player. Forte is the same kind of player. The difference is, Bush and Forte obviously are a little more expensive. I'm concerned about Forte a little bit. I don't like the fact that they've got a backup quarterback in there. Now, he did okay the first game, but I don't know. I was not impressed with the way he performed that game. I think that when you're playing Chicago, you're now moving your guys closer to the line of scrimmage. I think Forte's numbers are going to go down due to the quarterback.
I don't know about that. I mean, Forte, it doesn't matter. He's so versatile that there's a ton of different ways to get him involved in the game. So whether they shut down a certain aspect of this offense, they're still going to find ways to get Forte the ball. He's proven it all year. Cutler is an amazing quarterback himself. I mean, he's average at best, I would say. I don't think he's elite. And Forte, what is his lowest point till this year? 15.5 points? I mean, I think that floor is super high.
Now I know why you picked Matt Ryan, because you had to afford Forte, Bush, and Woodhead.
It's one of the reasons.
So I mean, they're all strong picks. I love that they're all receivers. Woodhead might as well be a receiver at this point. I don't know how they can keep calling him a running back. But, Dave, who are your running back picks this week?
Well, I've got Chris Johnson this week of Tennessee coming off a real good game. I've got Mike James, who's a bit of a sleeper pick, as my second back, and I've got Maurice Jones-Drew, guy I'm stealing from you a couple weeks ago, as my flex position. Let me explain James, because I think he's probably the hardest one to swallow. I think James is in a situation very similar to Zach Stacy last week. You're all kicking yourself for not having Stacy last week, and I can understand it. But James is, you look at James, he's a backup running back who's getting 20 carries a game. So they're committed to him, not like a usual backup where he's splitting time. He's getting a majority of the carries. Plus, he's coming off a big game against Seattle, which is a very good defense, which is exactly what Stacy did. Stacy had a big game against Seattle. It flashed that green light for you. If you had him last week, it was great. This week, that green light is flashing for James in a very good matchup against Miami's run defense, which is very bad. So here's a guy, a very low-priced guy, who could be the big-time difference maker for you this week.
Well, he's had 20 carries once this year, so I wouldn't say that that's for sure going to continue. And he's had over 10.4 points once this year. So,
well, he wasn't the starting back for the first, 5 weeks? I mean, let's compare him to what he's done more recently.
Yeah, the last 3 games, he's had 20 carries once, and he's had more than 10.4 points once. So, and to get those 24.48 points they had last week, it took him 28 carries and a passing touchdown. So,
well, right, and my point would be that in a game like this, Tampa Bay is not a good team, obviously, but they can compete in this game because Miami's not a good team either. Well, that's my point. And why did James carry the ball so much last week? Well, it's because for some reason they were able to compete with Seattle. Now, how that happened, I'm not sure. This week, it would be no surprise if they stayed in this game all the way. And if they're in this game all the way, I think, just like Stacy last week, why did he carry the ball so much? Because they were in the game the whole time. They didn't have to go in this catch-up mode, which they do a lot of times. I think when you can predict how the game is going to come out or be played, which I think you can in this case, and Miami's defense is so bad against the run, one of the worst in the league, I think the potential is there. If he does run the ball 20 times, the potential is there for him to have huge numbers, I think.
Yeah, that's the if, though. If he doesn't get it 20 times, then you're looking at 10 points at best.
Absolutely. And you would say the same for Stacy last week as well. I mean, I'd say the same thing for Chris Johnson this week. Chris Johnson's a guy who's been a guy who hasn't had a great season. He didn't have a lot of carries earlier in the year, but now he seems to be building up to where he's carrying the ball more. Last week had a very good matchup. He had one of his better games. games. This week's matchup, there is no better matchup than facing Jacksonville.
There is not.
Right, and I think that this is a game, almost every week, if you played the top running back against Jacksonville, you came up with monster numbers, and in this week, you don't even have to pay that high a price.
Yeah, you can't argue with the matchup there, but you can argue that Chris Johnson's a little boom or bust. He did have carries early in the season. The first 3 games of the season, you have 25, 25, 19, you know? He was getting carries. And then it kind of just shied away from that, and it's just been inconsistent all year. So you've got boomer bust CJ2K with boomer bust MJD, Maurice Jones-Drew, and it's pretty risky, I think. Your running backs are just a lot of risk. All that really need 20-plus carries. All 3 of them need 20-plus carries to probably have a good day.
Yeah, I don't know that I would agree with Jones-Drew on that, but I do agree with my other 2 backs. But what I would say positive, and this is piggybacks off an argument you've had in recent weeks, is that boom or bust is a good thing because that means high ceiling. And so if you can project a lot of carries for these backs, and I think you can this week, if you can take me to that level, say, yeah, you know what, I can see Johnson carrying the ball 18, 20 times. I can see James carrying the ball 18, 20, 22 times. Then I can say, well, then, if you tell me he's going to carry the ball 20 times, I'm going to project one of those boom weeks.
If you can get to that ceiling reasonably, then yes, it's a good argument. But the problem with Maurice Jones-Drew is he's had more than 15 points once. So there's no boom, you know? It's a lot of bust or average.
Well, Maurice Jones-Drew is my flex player, as opposed to you, who used you went to the bottom of the barrel at quarterback. I went to the bottom of the barrel at flex, like most of us do. But I, note that the guy I'm playing this week is playing the same opponent that Zach Stacy went crazy against last week. Jones-Drew and Stacy are very similar backs.
You're the guy that started Alex Smith and Ben Roethlisberger, all these back
This
quarterbacks.
is ancient history.
Matt Ryan? Come on.
Well, I feel like a broken record, but I'm playing Maurice Jones-Drew as well. Tennessee's not a good tackling team. Like you said, I think this is a good matchup. He is boom or bust. I'm hoping for the boom. My other pick, we've also talked a lot about in the last few minutes, and that's Zach Stacy. I am kicking myself for not playing him last week, but I'm going to hopefully not miss out on that opportunity again. I think the matchup's great. The Colts have not been good against the run this year. He's getting the space he needs, and he could have a really big game again. I don't think it's as much boom or bust as some of the other picks. I'm hoping for all boom.
Well, I would use the same argument that I used to promote James and Stacy against Stacy this week, because here's a game, the Rams at Indianapolis has blowout written all over it. You got an elite team against a poor team. The elite team is at home. This is a game that projects to Indianapolis winning easily. That's the case. Why would they hand the ball to Stacy?
He's a pass catcher. He's going to get receptions. Right now, he's a must start in your leagues that you're playing in yearly. And in daily, I think he's still a good value. If he puts up a couple more weeks like he has been, he's going to be to the point where you're not going to want him, but he's not there yet. So
I think he's a must start too. I'm going to start him. Maybe he'll prove you wrong. Maybe he'll prove me wrong. We'll see what happens. Those are our running back picks this week.